All right, guys, so today what we're going to do is we're going to continue to find the area of some rectangles, and it does say that you can draw an area model to help you. I probably, to be honest, am not going to draw an area model for this first one. The reason is because if I'm just going to basically be multiplying straight across because they are already in an improper fraction, an area model really isn't going to necessarily help me. If I convert it into, excuse me, a mixed number, then yeah, I would draw an area model like I will on B and C. And then also onto D, I will do that area model. But for letter A, I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply straight across because that's what I do when I have that multiplication. So I know that 5 times 12 is going to be 60. I know that 4 times 5 is going to be 20. Now, one thing I could do right now is I could go ahead and simplify it if I wanted to, or what I could do is I could go ahead and put it into that mixed number and then I could simplify further if I wanted to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to already simplify because I know that if I divide 60 by 20 and I divide 20 by 20, I'm already going to get 60 divided by 20 goes in 3 times. 20 divided by 20 is 1. So the area of this rectangle would be 3 kilometers squared. Okay. For this next one, I am going to draw the model just because it's going to make it easier when I'm multiplying those fractions. Because I think sometimes what you guys possibly see is, well, I can just multiply the whole number and then I can multiply the fractions. And that's not what you guys can do. You have to remember that that 16.5 goes with that half. That 4 1/5 goes with that 4. And so we have to remember that we've got to make sure that we are not just multiplying each of these. Technically, what you have to do is you would have to multiply the 16 times 4. You'd have to multiply the 16 times 1/5. You would have to multiply the 4 by 16. You'd have to multiply the 4 by 1/2. So you'd have to do a lot of multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and do 16, and then I'm going to say 1/2, and then I'm going to do 4, and I'm going to do 1/5. So then what I can do is I can do 16 times 4, and I'm going to look for some scratch paper real quick. And I'm going to do 16 times 4 is going to give me 64. So this is 64 meters squared. Okay. Then 4 times 1/2, so 4 times 1/2 equals 4 halves, because remember I just multiply straight across. That actually equals 2, so this is going to be 2 meters squared. Then I've got 1/5 times 16, so 16 times 1/5 equals 16 fifths. And if I convert that into a mixed number, that's going to be 3 and 1/5. Okay, so I'm going to put 3 and 1/5 kilometers, or meters squared. And then I'm going to do 1/5 times 1/2, and that equals 1/10. Okay, I know that on this 3 and 1/5, I know that 1/5, I'm going to have to convert that into that 10. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this here, and this is actually going to be 3 and 2/10. So then what I can do is I'm going to add this all up. So I'm going to add 64 plus 2 plus 3 and 2/10 plus 1/10. When I add my whole numbers, I get 64 plus 2 is going to give me 66, plus 3 is going to give me 69, and then 2 plus 1 is 3/10, and then I've got to remember my unit is meter squared. Okay. This is the reason why we do this area model, is so that we can separate and we know what we're multiplying. Basically, you're multiplying everything like I had said, but you can just kind of see it more in a model. So I'm going to make my model again here, and I'm going to do 4, and then here's 1/3. And then I'm going to do 5, and then here's 2/3. And honestly, I know that mine kind of like looks off and everything else. You can honestly make them all the same. It doesn't really matter. 5 times 4 is going to give me 20 yards squared. Then I'm going to do, let me draw this line so you guys can see that my work that I'm doing is right here. I'm going to do 5 times 1/3 equals 5/3, or 1 2/3. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 2/3 yard squared. So then I've got 2/3 times 4. So I'm going to get 8/3 or 2 and 2/3. 6, 7, 8, yep. 2 and 2/3 of a yard squared. And then I've got 2/3 times 1/3 equals 2/9. So it's going to be 2/9 of a yard. Okay. So here's the thing, on these ones, these 2/3 right here, I need to convert them into ninths. So I'm going to multiply each of these by 3 so I can have 9 as my common denominator. So then this is going to be 1 and 6/9, and then this is going to be 2 and 6/9. Okay, so now I can go ahead and add this up, and I don't have a lot of room here, guys, sorry, so I'm going to add it up over here. So I'm going to take my 20 yards plus my 1 and 6/9 yard plus my 2 and 6/9 yard and my 2/9 of a yard. So then I can add my whole numbers. 20 plus 1 plus 2 is going to be 23. And now I'm going to add up my fractions. I've got 6 plus 6 is going to be 12 plus 2 more is 14/9. And I want to simplify. So that goes, that's 1 and actually 5/9. So when I put this 1 and 5/9 with the 23, it's actually going to be 24 and 5/9 is actually the area of that square, of that rectangular model. So then I'm just going to write 24 and 5/9 yard squared. That is what my area is. Okay. Same thing on letter D, but this one's a little bit easier because I'm going to have 7/8, and then I'm just multiplying it by 4, and I'm multiplying it by 1/3. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and use my scratch paper, and I'm going to do 4 times 7/8, and then I'm also going to do 1/3 times 7/8. Okay, so then I'm just going to multiply straight across. That's 28/8, and then this one's 7. And then this is going to be 24. Okay, I'm going to convert this first before I write this in there. So I know that this one's going to be 7 and 24 miles squared. Okay, I'm going to do this. 8 divided by 28 goes in 3 times minus 24 equals 4/8. 3 and 4/8 is actually 3.5. So this is going to be 3 and 1/2. But before I write this in, I want to convert it to that 24. So I'm going to multiply it by 12. And it's actually going to be 3 and 12/24. So this is 3 and 12/24 miles squared. When I add these up, I've got 3 and 12/24 plus 7/24. When I add it up, I get 3, and then 12 plus 7 is going to be 19/24 miles squared. Okay, pretty simple. This next one, I really don't need any scratch paper because I do have quite a bit. It says, Julie is cutting rectangles out of fabric to make a quilt. Okay, so it says if the rectangles are 2 and 3/5 wide and 3 and 2/3 inches long, what is the area of 4? So when I find this, I'm going to find the area of 1. But then what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to multiply it by 4 because I'm going to have 4 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out what the area of 1 is. So 3 times 2 is 6 inches squared. Then I've got 3 times 3/5 is going to be 9/5, or 9/5 is 1 and 4/5. Okay, all I did was just made that into that mixed number. Then I've got 2/3 times 2 is going to be 4/3, or 1 and 1/3 inches squared. And then the next one is going to be 2/3 times 3/5 equals 6/15. And actually, instead of leaving this as 6/15, because I do want to leave it as 15ths, because even if I simplify this down, I'm looking at this 5 and the 3, my common denominator is going to have to be 6 15. So I'm going to have to leave that as 6/15. Okay. So then what I want to do is I want to add these up. So I've got 6 plus 1 1/3 plus 1 4/5 plus 6/15. What I need to do is I need to go ahead and convert this. 15 is going to be my common denominator, so I'm going to multiply these all out. And I'm going to get 6 and plus 1 5/15 plus 1 12/15 plus 6/15. Okay, I'm going to add up my whole numbers, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm going to add up my numbers right here. I know that 6 and 5 is 11, so then 12 and 11 is going to be 23/15. But I want to simplify that. So the 23/15 it's 1 8/15, 8/15. So this is 1 8/15. So 1 square is going to be 9 8/15. Now, I can multiply this by 4 because what I basically would have to do is I'd have to multiply 9 by 4 and then 8/15 by 4. Or I can just go ahead and add 4 of them up because it's not that much. Okay, so then what I can do is I know that 9 times 4 is going to be 36. Okay, and then I know that 8 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 is going to be 32/15, which 32/15 would actually be 2 and 2/15. Okay, because I know 15 goes into 32 2 times and then you have 2 left over. So actually when I do this, what I need is a total of 38 2/15 inches squared for all 4 of those pieces of fabric.